thank you all for joining this morning's call. It's a real pleasure to see you all, and it leads me nicely into the introductions, the new members and also the ambassadors staying on for 25, 26. Ellie, next slide. So we do always like to just start on the mission statement, which is, we are a working group. It is about sharing best practice. And the agenda for this morning's call is that we have been joined by Paul Unwin, I'm delighted to say, from National Highways, and he's going to tell us about the progress that National Highways and some of the trailblazing work that National Highways are delivering. As usual, we talk about sustainability items for the newsletter. Always welcome those. So during the call, do think about any contributions you would like to make. We're going to have updates from the subgroups and then the general sort of parish notices about the MPA events as usual. So with that, let's move on to the next slide. Or would you like to start the call by introducing yourself and then dive straight into some of the amazing progress that National Highways has made?
I will. Thank you very much. And it's a joy to be with you all today to speak about what we're doing in National Highways on our road to net zero 2030, 40, 50. I know I'm talking to quite an educated audience here, a little bit daunting if I'm telling the truth, because you probably know a lot more about this stuff than I do. But it's a general overview conversation. I think I've got about 20 minutes or so, Janet, on this. So I won't be going into any huge depth. So if you've got any more detailed questions, I'm very happy to take those away and do that in slow time with you. But I will take the slides and do a little bit of an introduction about me, and then we'll get into the meat, as we call it, of what we are doing as National Highways in this area.
And Paul, I should have said, we do normally sort of allow you sort of 15, 20 minutes uninterrupted and then questions at the end. So if people just sort of note things down or pop them in the chat, and then we can put those to Paul at the end. Thank you, Paul.
No, thank you, and absolutely up for that. So my style is I don't read what's on the slides. You're intelligent people, you can read all the things. So there's a little bit about me. I'm very active on LinkedIn. So that's the QR code. I'd be very, very happy to connect with you and have further conversations with you as well through LinkedIn as we go on. So here we go. First slide then. A lot of my slides are images, so it's not death by PowerPoint. You'd be glad to hear, because the 20 minutes would go very, very slowly if we did that. But, we're approaching this from a National Highways context. So what is uppermost in our minds when we think about some of the risks and issues to our strategic road network? As we go around, the slide here, again, we've had another very, very hot and dry summer. So from the top left, heat waves cause wildfire risks. And it's not just the direct effect, it's the indirect of blowing smoke across our highways as well, which is a safety issue for us. And we have to put signs and signals out and alert our traffic officer service to do that. In very hot weather, our asphalt road surfaces can soften and rot. And I've got a picture on my next slide showing that, because that's a maintenance issue for us. And how do you plan for that? How, where is it going to get hot? Where, which parts of the network are going to be affected? Is it going to be north, west, south? And we work on a regional basis with our funding. So we have to move funding around to cope with that and to try and anticipate it. Be interested to see if anybody's done any work in predictive and forecasting, the effect of weather events on a kind of road services. So that's something for maybe another day. And if anybody's doing something like that, I'd love to hear from you. On the other side, we get kind of very strong freak storms now, don't we? So there's a lot of waterlogging, blocking our drains, causing flooding, making us kind of put in diversion routes as well in different places. So that's an issue for us too. In extreme heat, our bridges, the expansion joints, they kind of move So again, we monitor those. What's the effect of those? Some of our structures are very much end of life, 30, 40, 50 years old. They can do without that kind of, interference and effect. So we're doing a lot of work with our structures people on looking at especially on our near to end of life structures, on the effects of bridge expansion in extreme heat. Newly laid asphalt, yeah, it takes longer to cool in hot spells. So whereas we used to love the summers for putting in, it's more now the spring and autumn. It's quite delicate stuff. It appears laid asphalt. It doesn't like it too cold. It doesn't like it too wet. Doesn't like it too hot. So it's very Goldilocks, isn't it? And it's finding the right time of the year and the right temperatures. And is there a range? And again, people are doing work on that. I'd love to hear from you. And is there something in the mix that we could change that gets over that for us? Yeah. Drainage, and mentioned it already, drainage and flooding. High winds, of course, we monitor our bridges with anemometers, with the 7 crossing and the Queen Elizabeth Bridge, and we have to close it, obviously, to high-sided vehicles. So a lot going on in the environment, which challenges us. I've got some images on the next slide of those as well. So yeah, there's a really good picture in the top middle there of rotting on lane 1, where the heavies go up and down. So, that we're out there all the time monitoring those through our network operations colleagues and looking at the effects of those. But that looks very severe, doesn't it? And, that can appear kind of overnight from a very, very hot day. See on the right there, overwhelming of drainage, causing floods. So clearly on that bit of network, we won't be able to use that for a few days. We can do some pumping, but that's very disruptive to our customers and putting traffic on probably less safe routes, less safe local authority routes, local roads and diversion routes, which can't really cope with those kind of diversions. And also we get, our customers in those diversion routes not very happy about that as well. 32 tonners, 44 tonners going past their houses when they should be on the strategic road network, motorways and the A roads. So that's a cause of, a lot of correspondence and phone calls, and that can get into the media very, very quickly. And we deal with ministerials around that as well. So it's not just the direct effect, it's the indirect effect of affecting all my colleagues having to deal with the outcomes and dealing with customers and giving reassurance in those areas as well. Talked about high winds, those areas there. So high-sided vehicles, absolutely blocking routes, and again causing us to have to do diversion routes as well. So that's just kind of a very brief overview of all the kind of different areas that mean, that climate is affecting us all. So how are we tackling it? And we've published our road to net zero, and I've got a QR code at the end, which I can share that with you. I'm sure you've all know it. If not, I can absolutely provide you with a link to it. But we split it down into 3 main areas. So our first one is our corporate emissions, the emissions that we emit as national highways, and our plan is to be net zero internally by 2030. For our maintenance and construction emissions, so that's our supply chain, our direct and indirect supply chain, to be net zero by 2040. And for road users, which is one we kind of all recognise, is by net zero by 2050. I'm going to talk about all 3 and the various direct and indirect assistance and support we're giving in those areas. Excuse me. So first is our kind of energy and estates, if I can call them that. So all the buildings we own, all the assets we own, and how far are we getting on, and what are we doing in those areas? We've come a long way already. So, excuse me. So 100% of our electricity is already from certified renewable tariffs. That's an easy thing to do. I'm sitting here today, though, in our National Highways Development Centre in Morton in Marsh, and we're trialling lots of wind energy. We're trialing solar energy. We think that we can make a really good contribution as well to the network by providing kind of solar and wind as a contribution towards our net zero. We are not, I hasten to add, we are not an energy producer. We're not here to compete with National Grid or any of the other businesses, but we want to make a contribution. And where we can do that, we're looking at opportunities at the roadside or in the fields, etc., to add to part of our assets, solar panels or wind panels. So we've got a lot of gantries out there, haven't we? A lot of structures out there. Can we do something around that to add to our contribution towards net zero? So work going on there to do that. In 2025, achieved a 75% reduction in emissions from our baseline. So the next stage, 2027, replace 70% of road lighting with LEDs. Now, how we do that is we've got a program of, say, maintenance renewals across the entire network, and we're well on the way to doing that. So when we're out doing other work, whether that's surfacing, kind of structures, drainage, etc., we'll go out and do some replacing of the lighting as well. So we don't want to, as far as possible, just do an LED lighting scheme. We want to combine it with other works because that's the most efficient way to do it, to combine the traffic management, and again, it's less disruptive to our customers as well. And by 2030, generate at least 10% from renewables and plant at least an extra 3 million trees. Well on the way to that. So I lead the A417 missing link project, and we're going on that one, going to be planting somewhere between 150,000 and 300,000 trees on that one, just on one project. So our major projects are a big contributor to tree planting, and not just tree planting, other flora and fauna as well for biodiversity net gain, which is one of our in RIS3, our Road Investment Strategy 3 from 2025 to 2030, one of the targets set by Department of Transport, not just to have a replacement or no worse biodiversity, is actually a positive to actually increase the biodiversity. So a biodiversity net gain plus, if you like, in this roads period. So next slide. So this is our fleet and travel aspects. So obviously we run our own traffic officer vehicles and snowplows and that kind of thing. So we're looking to switch that not just to hybrids, but to EVs totally by 2030. And we've got a long way on that. So traffic officer vehicles, probably 70% of them now are hybrid, the other 20% probably electric, and the others kind of petrol, diesel. But as we finish those particular contracts, they switch to hybrid and to electric. Then for our own mileage, we want 100% of our business road mileage to be from EVs in 2026. For our own kind of private, well, not private travel, our company travel, the default is by train. Clearly, we can use things like this as well, where we avoid travel totally, but it's important. We feel that, our people see each other. So default by train, if not, then by hire car, and EVs are the kind of top default line for hiring electric vehicles to do that. By 2027, light fleet is 100% electric. That's excluding the traffic officer vehicles, but I'll come on to what we're trying to get with our traffic officer vehicles is the right mix of vehicles for the type of work they need to do. And one of the issues we've got at the moment with the type of vehicles they have is they're the SUV type vehicles, and it's the range. But range is getting better. We're getting electric vehicles now with over 350 and up to 450 miles. So certainly by 2027, as we do that buying, we're finding that the manufacturers are responding to our needs to do that. The most difficult one, I think, is the electric and renewables on hydrogen on the heavy vehicles. So we are looking at EV and hydrogen as well, working with manufacturers on that. The heavies, things like the snowplow fleet, for example, not a lot of manufacturers out there in the first place that provide those, but we're talking with them and they are working towards providing EV and hydrogen options for us. We're not there yet, but we're getting pretty close on some of those. And I'm looking at a EV with Renault, some work with them and doing some trials with them over the next few months, actually. So we do talk directly with manufacturers. Next slide. Excuse me. So how far are we getting? Journey so far. So 99.7% of electricity is purchased from zero carbon sources. The kind of 0.3 is kind of very remote sites and some of our outstations, not quite there yet, but we're confident we can achieve those. We've installed energy efficient measures at 32 depots. 28% of road lighting is already lit by LED, and it's probably, this slide is getting slightly older now, so it's probably even more than that. And we've launched our own green car salary sacrifice scheme, and again, quite a few people signed up for that, probably double that now, and it's growing as well. And our future, what are we looking at in the future for our own direct emissions? Continue to support staff with skills, reduce our overall size of our office and building estate, so replace 70% of our LEDs by 27, and provide EV charging at 49 depots and outstations. Okay, so that's our indirect emissions. Maintenance construction. So these are our supply chain, not just the tier ones, but the tier twos as well, all the supply chain. I guess the biggest thing is the PAS 2080. So we've kind of led on that with a lot of other organizations as well, no doubt represented on this call, and thank you if you've been part of that. It's a bit of a game changer, and it's basically giving really good insight of this is what we've done, this is how you can do it as well. It's a really good guide for other organizations to implement their own carbon net reduction measures. And the most important thing we say is baseline. Baseline. Where are you now on that journey? And that can be an eye opener. And for some organizations, that's a bit of, didn't know we were quite that bad. But you got to start. Be real, be honest, count, capture all that data. And then from only then you can start monitoring and the approaches and get better. We've launched our own low carbon opportunities register, really capturing opportunities in that. I'm going to show a slide in a minute of some of the successes we've had there. We've published our own net zero roadmaps for concrete, steel and asphalt. Clearly, those are the three major spend areas for us in our industry. So, on the kind of 80-20 Pareto analysis, those are the ones that we're going to be concentrating on getting reductions on and looking at new materials and contributions towards net zero. Projects embracing challenges to actively reduce carbon. Hundreds of ideas adopted, and my next slide will show you just a handful of those. We've published our contracting for carbon policy, and on every project now has carbon reporting and performance and baselines set. We've launched our new PCF, so that is our kind of PCF products. You may be fully familiar with them. It's our project controls framework. So as a program sponsor in national highways, I look after the benefits of schemes, and we rely on the control framework products for to ensure that we're doing the right thing at the right time. And the new one is on carbon management. We're benchmarking EVs and renewable energy. Launching an innovator accelerator program. So we invest a lot in designated funds. So we're very interested in innovations and working with the supply chain of, okay, what are you doing out there? How can we help you? And how can you help us? kind of accelerate some of the things that we're doing, and just generally in all our communications, just ensuring that carbon is a corporate priority and it's part of our DNA, if you like. So here's just a few of the different innovations here. Again, you may be very familiar with them. So again, I'm not going to kind of spell them out all, but say EcoFill, it really works. So reducing carbon by up to 90%. The second one there, basalt rebar alternatives as an alternative concrete reinforcement. Carbon EPCs, I like these because, and I talk to customers about these. We've all got, in our kitchens, we know the most energy efficient products, whether it's your fridge or your washer or your dishwasher, and it's got an A, B, C, D, E. And what we're trying to do is, look at these certificates to kind of simplify it, because a lot of it is, on the face of it, looks quite difficult to achieve, but this is a very kind of innovative inroad into marking up some of the products and materials that we use on a sort of A, B, C, D, E, G, EFG approach. And then the final one, construction opportunities, low carbon, biobinders, logistics, that kind of thing. Okay. Moving on. So our future focus in maintenance construction is within our contracts, embedding those commitments to all our contracts. So whether they are framework contracts, others, it'll be part of the contract conditions that, we work together. And that's not a stick to beat our supply chain with, it's to encourage as industry leaders to work with us. And, and that's been received very, very favorably by our supply chain. And they've been very responsive, as I say, to past 2018 and are starting to, starting that journey themselves in their own companies to do that. So that's very pleasing to see. So we've got exemplar projects going live. So we've had our first net zero major road enhancement scheme. That's in design already. And you may have seen on the media and on LinkedIn, we're doing lots of surfacing schemes where we're using far less carbon in the mix to produce those schemes. Further down there, 100% emissions plant, 100% zero efficient vehicles to be used on site by 2030 in the supply chain. Next column there, communication and engagement. Really, a lot of this is finding opportunities to tell the story. A bit like today, really. What are we doing? How can we learn from others as well? We're going to be very active at Highways UK later in October, talking about some of the things we're doing as well. And we're open to learn from others, and we'll be presenting what we're doing and share all the things that we're doing as well. We want to be very transparent and open and make as much as we can publicly available on either on our own website, which is a great source, or others as well. So we'll be officially launching our reporting dashboard. And so this report, the net zero, it's in its third year now. And again, I've got a QR code at the end if you want to look at the next, the most recent reporting of progress made. Just coming back down to the last couple on there, changing business processes. So better consideration for carbon in the early stages of a process. It's a little bit too late when we get on site, isn't it? So we're doing it in the options phase and also the development phases. Those are the kind of PCF 0 to 2 stages. Detailed design is stage 5 and construction is stage 6. So, let's have those carbon and reduction discussions at the very outset of projects. That's the best time to look at the opportunities and do that, value engineering, value management in those areas, and reviewing our own products to support carbon more. Okay. Running on and getting to some of the final slides now. You'll be glad to hear, Janet. Hopefully I'm not going on too long for you. This is probably the most complex one, is with kind of road users. So kind of divided this up into the outer kind of circle of where we as National Highways have a direct, outside have our indirect influence, and in the circle, in the grey circle, where we're more direct. Let's talk about the direct in the circle. So what are we doing? We're enabling active travel, we're encouraging behavioural change, we're working with DfT, our client, improving bus and coach experience. That's more around interchanges and park and ride, that sort of area, and supporting vehicle emissions transition. Outside that area, indirectly, so the RIS funding decisions. So clearly we work very closely with our client Department for Transport. We'll put up all sorts of recommendations, but at the end of the day, those funding decisions are ministerial and political. And it depends really on the political appetite for some of these things. But we are there as professionals, as you are, to recommend and give the examples and put up the benefits cases for the investments for these things. And clearly carbon reduction is core to all the benefits realization that we're looking at on all our schemes. So that covers things like government stance in those areas as well. Again, the political appetite for all this area. Outside as well, just on the right, grid decarbonisation. So National Grid colleagues, looking at that, what are their priorities? We are reliant really for the kind of last mile, especially with EV chargers, of ensuring that National Grid kind of do that bit, do their bit to ensure that the power is online for us to get it. And that's not always easy. National Grid doing a great job, but we all recognise there's a hunger, not just from us in National Highways, but across industry as well, to provide those links. So indirectly as well, the cost and availability of public transport. There may be, our colleagues and customers and our workforce as well want to use public transport, but is it there? Is the investment there that they can make that transfer away from private car into buses, trams, cycling ways, and those kind of areas? And lastly, the cost of EVs and supply chain in charging their infrastructure as well. So how are we getting what we achieved so far? Let's move that around. Yeah, so we've established a road user working group, talking with industry, again, gathering ideas. This is what we're doing. What are you doing? How can we work together more? And we invested over 40 million in active travel schemes. That was in RIS 2. We'll be doing probably double that in RIS 3. Installed 5 motorway service area energy solutions with faster charging points, integrated zero carbon into our planning guide, and publish our own views on net zero HGV trials and our priority areas are EV infrastructure planning, zero emission vehicles experience, heavy vehicles decarbonisation, a network optimization toolkit. So that's around, okay, where can we get the best returns for our investment along the network? Looking at the future of roadside facilities for, ultra fast charging points, for example, and the readiness of our network generally for zero emission vehicles. And that's not just running along the network, but also when those vehicles, run out of charge as well, how can we and traffic officers, help them along on their journeys to complete their journeys? Mentioned it earlier, so that is the QR code link to it. We'll provide these slides no doubt later, so if you don't have your camera at hand, don't worry, you can just Google Net Zero Highways National Highways Plan, and that will find that. So that was our original plan, and then the next one is the third year progress report, which was published in September 2024. So the next one, fourth year progress, imminent, if not already out there. So look out for the fourth year progress report coming out and being published shortly. Just finally, I'd not expect you to write all these down, but again, just flashing it on screen. So these are some of the key design standards that are already in place that help us do what we want to do in this carbon reduction area. All those different ones. think the most important one I'd kind of just highlight to you is the last one on there, the LA 114 climate, which requires a climate change risk assessment to inform the design. So, you know, that's been quite impactful, I'm going to say. And again, they are best done at the very outset of the project. It's harder, isn't it, to re-engineer or back engineer something like that into a project that's already kind of set and already been designed. So, you know, let's start early on some of these things, and then it becomes part, as I say, of our DNA. Listen, I've covered a lot there. I know, I recognise I've rushed through it all, but it was an overview. It was an appreciation. Happy to have further conversations with you, and hopefully, Janet, I've not taken too much of your time.
Paul, that was absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much.